Alain Mérieux was born into a house where microscopes and medicine were as ordinary as Sunday breakfast. A family lineage that stretched back to the 19th century, when a young Marcel Mérieux first set out to turn scientific curiosity into practical public health tools. Alain arrived in Lyon on July 10, 1938, carrying both an inherited passion for the life sciences and a restless entrepreneurial streak. Over the course of half a century, he would build that inheritance into a global force for diagnostics, public health, and philanthropy, all while navigating personal tragedy, political detours, and the prickly responsibilities that come from running a family empire in the modern age. He trained as a pharmacist and completed studies that married the laboratory bench with management acumen, a combination that would prove decisive. Lyon, a historic hub of French medical research and industry, was more than a birthplace. It was a living laboratory. Alain's father, Charles Mérieux, and his grandfather before him had already established an institutional presence in serum production and infectious disease work. For Alain, the obvious question was not whether to continue the family business, but how to transform it for a new era, how to shift from regional laboratories and traditional serums towards scalable technologies and diagnostic systems that could be deployed around the world. The pivotal step came in 1963 when Alain Mérieux founded bioMérieux. At the time, in vitro diagnostics were a niche field. Laboratories still did much of their work manually, and diagnostic turnaround times were long. bioMérieux pushed a different agenda: standardization, ready-to-use reagents, and systems that allowed laboratories to produce faster, more reliable, and more reproducible results. Under Alain's leadership, the company introduced innovations that would ripple across clinical microbiology: pre-prepared culture media, automated instruments, and diagnostic kits that shortened the time from specimen to answer. These were not glamorous breakthroughs on the scale of a new drug, but they were foundational. Better diagnostics meant better clinical decisions, better infection control, and, over years and decades, millions of lives affected. The business model he pursued reflected that same pragmatic intelligence. Rather than trying to compete solely on the basis of single products, bioMérieux sought platform dominance, instruments that could run many kinds of tests, consumables that locked customers into useful ecosystems, and steady reinvestment in research. It was a playbook most silicon founders would recognize: platform plus recurring revenue plus R&D. But Alain brought to it something less tech-typical and more human, a long-termist orientation rooted in medical mission. The company's growth was steady and global. By the turn of the 21st century, bioMérieux had become a market leader in infectious disease diagnostics, with laboratories and customers spanning hospitals, public health agencies, and industrial clients. Running a family business of that scale meant balancing corporate stewardship with family expectations. The Mérieux family story has its share of triumphs and heartbreaks. Alain's stewardship of the group was shaped by deep personal commitments and painful losses. Two of his sons, Rodolphe and Christophe, died prematurely, tragedies that reverberated through both the family and the business community. These losses are part of the private history that overlapped with Alain's public responsibilities, and they seem to reinforce rather than diminish his sense of duty to science, to health, and to the institutions the family had built. Beyond bioMérieux, Alain's influence extended into an array of foundations and institutions bearing the Mérieux name. The Institut Mérieux and the Mérieux Foundation represent the family's attempt to convert private success into public good. These entities have supported everything from infectious disease control programs in low-income countries to research partnerships and training initiatives. The logic was simple but ambitious. Diagnostics and immunotherapies are only as useful as the health systems and practitioners that deploy them. By funding training, laboratories, and public health networks, the family aimed to close that implementation gap. For Alain, philanthropy was not an afterthought. It was an intrinsic part of the mission to put biology at the service of public health. Alain Mérieux's leadership style has long struck observers as a mix of scientist's humility and businessman's impatience. He was not a CEO who sought the limelight for its own sake. Rather, he was a steward of capability, an executive who wanted to build things that worked. That made him both practical and occasionally uncompromising. He encouraged technical excellence without falling into the ivory tower trap. He pushed for commercial robustness without abandoning the founding public health ethos. Those priorities shaped corporate decisions: strategic acquisitions to broaden diagnostic portfolios, steady capital deployment in R&D, and sustained investment in manufacturing capacity so that the company could actually supply the tests and instruments that clinicians needed. The real-world value of that approach became painfully obvious during outbreaks and public health emergencies. Diagnostics sit at the heart of any effective epidemic response, identifying cases, guiding treatment, and informing containment measures. bioMérieux's platforms were repeatedly called into service during epidemics, from more prosaic hospital outbreaks to larger-scale emergencies. Alain and the group he led did not merely sell tests. They often worked with public health authorities, hospitals, and international organizations to integrate diagnostics into broader response strategies. That posture, seeing diagnostics as public utility rather than mere commercial product, is one reason the company and the family have been taken seriously by governments and donors. Alain's career was not purely technical or corporate. It had a political dimension as well. In the late 20th century, he moved into regional politics in Rhône-Alpes, serving in leadership positions and engaging with local economic development. That stint in public service was not a detour so much as another avenue for impact. Local government sets many of the conditions for research clusters, medical centers, and industrial policy, and Alain's participation reflected a belief that business and civic responsibility could and should reinforce one another. He later stepped back from overt political life, but his regional engagement remains part of the fuller picture. Businessman, philanthropist, and occasional public servant. Success on the scale achieved by Alain Mérieux naturally attracted attention from wealth rankings and business press. Publications such as Forbes and Bloomberg have consistently listed him among the world's wealthier individuals, reflecting the substantial value tied to the family's control of bioMérieux and other healthcare holdings. Those numbers offer a concrete measure of the company's market impact, but they do not capture everything. Behind the listed net worth are decades of technical investment, lab benches, regulatory approvals, and the gradual scaling of a global distribution network for diagnostic products. In any account of his life, the financial metrics are signposts, useful but incomplete. There is another dimension to Alain Mérieux's story that often escapes headlines: the quiet technical revolutions built into everyday laboratory practice. Diagnostic innovations are rarely overnight sensations. They are the product of incremental improvements, a more reliable reagent here, a faster culture system there, that collectively change how medicine is practiced. Alain's leadership favored those accumulations. Under his watch, bioMérieux turned small technical advantages into industry standards. That meant hiring talented microbiologists and engineers, building robust manufacturing procedures, and maintaining long-term relationships with clinicians who trusted the company's results. It also meant resisting fads and focusing instead on reproducibility and scale. Those choices paid off in reliability, market share, and, importantly, clinical credibility. The Mérieux name, through its companies and foundations, has also had an international footprint beyond Europe. From partnerships in Africa and Asia to collaborations with global health agencies, the family's work has tried to reach places where diagnostics are often scarce. Alain's philanthropic impulses aim to tackle the structural barriers that limit the usefulness of diagnostics: insufficient laboratory staff training, weak supply chains, and fragmented public health surveillance. By addressing these problems through capacity-building programs, laboratory networks, and training fellowships, the family sought to make diagnostics a realistic tool, not an unattainable luxury in lower resource settings. For many observers, that combination of commercial and philanthropic strategy reflected a fuller understanding of impact: technology plus systems. No biography of a living business figure is complete without acknowledging the tensions of family control. Family firms can be durable because family shareholders often think in generations rather than quarterly cycles. But they can also be brittle because succession, disagreements, and personal tragedies can unsettle governance. The Mérieux family has had to navigate these dynamics while preserving scientific rigor and corporate continuity. Alain's tenure involved cultivating capable management beyond immediate family circles, professionalizing certain functions, and using foundations to anchor the group's long-term mission. Those governance choices are part of what allowed bioMérieux to remain competitive as the diagnostics industry globalized and consolidated. Alain's public persona is often described as low-key and focused. He is not the archetypal flashy tycoon. Instead, he represents an older European model of industrial leadership, committed to national research ecosystems, attentive to civic duties, and willing to place long-term institutional health above short-term spectacle. This temperament influenced the group's culture. Employees have often reported a practical seriousness about product quality and a sense that the company's work had social purpose. That atmosphere contrasted at times with the brisk competition of a global market, and it required constant cultural stewardship, making sure that mission-minded scientists and commercially-minded managers could coexist productively. As the diagnostics industry hurtled into the 21st century, new challenges and competitors emerged. Molecular diagnostics, point-of-care testing, and rapid response platforms upended old assumptions. bioMérieux adapted by investing in molecular techniques, partnering with other innovators, and expanding its global manufacturing footprint. That strategic flexibility, the willingness to adopt new methods while protecting core strengths in bacteriology and immunoassays, helped the company keep pace. Alain's stewardship emphasized adaptability, the idea that institutions grounded in rigorous science could and must evolve as the science itself evolved. Alain's legacy is not a single building or a named chair, though there are many such honors. It is more diffuse. The laboratories that run faster and more reliably because of devices his companies developed. The training programs that helped build laboratory capacity in low-resource countries. And the institutional arrangements that linked private capability with public need. He has been a steward of both a family name and of a technical field. And in that dual role, he forced a hard question on himself and his peers: how to maintain scientific integrity while building a viable global enterprise. That balance is delicate, and it is what history will likely judge alongside financial success. In recent years, the Mérieux Group's profile has continued to be substantial in global health circles. The Institut Mérieux and affiliated foundations remain active in research funding and public health programs, even as bioMérieux expands its diagnostic reach. Alain's leadership style, measured, mission-forward, and technical, set the tone for that sustained engagement. Whether confronting an epidemic or supporting medical education, the approach has been consistent. Invest in systems that last, and prioritize interventions that strengthen the capacity to detect and respond to disease. There is also a human lesson embedded in his story. Many corporate founders succeed by pursuing growth alone. Alain's career suggests a different metric of success, one that values institutional durability, scientific usefulness, and civic contribution. That worldview is not universally popular in boardrooms focused on short-term returns, but it can produce companies that matter in ways investors find hard to quantify. Diagnostics are not glamorous. They are often invisible when they work and painfully obvious when they do not. Alain Mérieux built much of his influence in that in-between space, where steady technical improvements become the scaffolding for better healthcare. To the young scientists and entrepreneurs who study his path, there are practical takeaways. First, marry technical depth with managerial competence. Second, think beyond product to the systems that deploy and sustain it. Third, treat philanthropy as an extension of institutional strategy rather than a public relations add-on. Those lessons are not unique to Alain's story, but he embodied them in a particularly coherent way. A family-driven industrialist who insisted that business must serve health, and that health requires both innovation and infrastructure. Looking forward, the Mérieux institutions face the same uncertainties that confront all players in health tech. Rapid technological shifts, changing regulatory regimes, and evolving global health priorities. The advantage they hold is experience. Decades of building diagnostic systems, negotiating the messy realities of health systems in many countries, and maintaining a philanthropic arm that can facilitate long-run engagement. If the next generation can preserve that blend of rigor, mission, and adaptability, the Mérieux name may well continue to matter, not just as a marker of wealth or industrial achievement, but as a durable contributor to global public health. Alain Mérieux's life is the story of a family's dedication to applied science, transmuted through corporate scale into a global capability for disease detection. It is the tale of a modest Lyonnais pharmacist who saw early on that the smallest things, a drop of blood, a petri dish, a reagent, could have outsized consequences for human life. Transforming those small things into robust systems took patience, technical rigor, and a conviction that business could be an instrument of public good. For those reasons, his influence extends beyond balance sheets. It reaches into hospital wards, rural clinics, and the invisible networks of surveillance that keep populations safer. And that, for a man whose work began at the microscope, is an appropriate measure of a life well spent.